I'm Mike Jungbauer. We are in St. Paul, Minnesota. And how did I get to be sitting in this seat? I jokingly say it was fate somewhat because I was born about 2 blocks from here. When I was 17, I was in Washington, D.C. representing the future farmers of America. And I got to ask questions of then Vice President Walter Mondale, our U.S. Senator Hubert Humphrey, and our U.S. Representative James Oberstar, a question on farm policy. Hubert Humphrey got to answer the question, so I asked him the question, and he looked at me and said, "Mike, is this the question?" And I said, "Yeah." He talked for like 2 hours, looked back at me and said, "Mike, did that answer the question?" And I said, "I don't know." And I promised myself then at 17 that I would never ever be involved in politics. And I always tell young kids, you know, always listen to your parents, because I always told people I would never be in politics or religion, and actually I'm an ordained minister as well. So I never listened to my parents, and I became exactly that which I didn't want to become. But I realized that in everything you do, 2 things that affect people very much are your faith and values, and the things that government can or cannot do to you. And I got fed up with people that were in office because they were doing things not because it was for the benefit of everybody, but because it made them somehow feel better. And I thought, that's wrong. And I just went back to school at Moody Bible Institute and was actually working with parachurch ministry, Christian Motorsports International. It's a racing ministry, and went through their training and Moody Bible's training and became a racing reverend. Christian Motorsports are the chief chaplains for NHRA drag racing, IHBA hot boat racing, and then I did the only ministry that didn't have motors, bicycle motocross racing ministry. So I actually did skateboarding ministry before that, a little bit of snowboard ministry. I love extreme sports because you get kids with extreme attitudes, and through our local BMX track and my 2 oldest kids wanting to race, there was a lot of kids with attitude problems, and I don't know, I just felt challenged through working with kids to try to straighten out the attitudes of kids at the local track. And pretty soon people said, you know, you should take a team on the road. You can make a difference in a lot of kids' lives, and we did. And I became the chaplain for the American Bicycle Association, and it was really fun. Adam Welter and Ryan Bunker, and I mean, good kids, but always want to live on the edge. You know, let's just push the envelope. Let's do some things that are, you know, maybe we don't think they're wrong, but other people think they're wrong. And Adam just made us feel really good because he was always like we were his second parents, although he was in his later teen years when he started running our team. A very, very high quality racer that was always in the top in the country. Ryan Bunker, very similar, but it was Ryan's parents that said, you know, we see the change in our son in just 1 season of racing on your team, that you guys really, you know, care about the kids. I first ran for mayor of East Bethel, the city I have lived in most of my life, in 1994. And I understand elections because that first election I lost by 1 vote. It was 3 votes on election night, so I went through a hand recount. I know what that's like. Nobody challenged ballots, but I know what it's like to physically look at each ballot and they say, "Do you want to challenge it?" I didn't know what it was to challenge a ballot. Of course, after watching the Coleman and Franken election and the ballot challenges, I tell people if I look back in '94, I could have just challenged 2 ballots, I would have won. Because nobody else would have known. They would have said, "Oh, okay." But that caused me to focus, the '94 election, losing it, and saying, was I running for the right reasons? Was it more because it was something I wanted as a goal, or did somehow I get caught up in it? And I ran again in '96, but I didn't really put my whole heart into it. Mayor was 2-year term. And in '98, I really looked at myself and I said, what can I do to change the lives of others by being elected to political office? And my goal then, I was doing a lot of this youth ministry and extreme sports, and there was a bunch of kids in our area up there, and it's a pretty big area in East Bethel, but not a lot of places to do things like skateboarding. I said, you know, that's one thing I can bring, because my kids were playing softball and baseball, those sorts of things that were generally accepted, but they also liked BMX, and there was no place to do it. I was fortunate enough to have a big yard. We still have a BMX track in the backyard. But I thought if I got elected, I could really change some of these lives that I was changing out on the road in my own city. And doing that. I guess people could feel the passion. I got elected. I served two-year terms as mayor, and there was an opening in the Senate. Election night came, and I try to mix family and politics in the campaigning. My wife says, "How do you feel?" And I said, "Well, if I get elected, fine. If I don't, no big deal." I mean, I really was that calm about it. She said, "Well, how come you're so calm?" And I just looked at her and said, "I did the best I could do. I did the best without cheating you and the kids out of the family time. You guys helped me a lot. We did the best we could do. If it takes more than that, I don't want part of this. If I can't mix it all together, I don't want any part of it." And we won. And I remember one year some nurses came in and they were lobbying for more money for nurse education things. And there was just something that was wrong with this one gal. And I said, "Something bothering you?" I said, "You just look like something's really bothering you." And she just broke out and just started bawling her eyes out. Her husband had just left her, and she had 3 kids. It was just, I mean, it just happened like that morning. And she just came, and it was just, I just asked her, I said, can I pray with you? And she said, "This is just awesome. We can come into our senator's office, and he, feels what's going on in our lives and wants to pray with us." I let people know this is part of my life. It affects my decision making, but I want to walk the walk. A teacher that had to go out of state to take care of her mom for a few years, and so she had to go on a sabbatical. Well, in the meantime, because of taking care of her mom that was dying, she forgot to pay into her retirement, or somebody forgot to tell her that when she's on a sabbatical, she was responsible to pay into the retirement. And we fixed it through a law. I drafted a law that allowed her to go back retroactively and pay it back in. It didn't cost the state any money. But when we got all done, she said, "Why did you do that for me? I'm a Democrat. I never voted for you, and why would you help me as a Democrat?" And I said, "Well, just because I claim to be Republican doesn't mean I'm not representing every constituent in my district. You are my constituent. You are one of my concerns." And she was just blown away by that. She thought somehow whatever party you were in, that you didn't care about anybody else. And that is so wrong. When I campaign, I mean, you go through that all the time, or you go to a door and people say, "Are you Republican or Democrat?" I mean, that's the first question out of their mouth. And I tell people that's the last thing you should be asking. Because if I say, and I always tell them I'm a Republican, and some of them will say, "Well, I don't vote for Republicans." Well, who do you vote for? "I only vote Democrat." Well, why? Well, because they do good things for me. What do they do? Do you talk to me? Tell me what your issues are. Same with a Republican. If they say, "I'm going to vote for you because you're a Republican," I just look at them and go, "Don't do that." Maybe, just maybe, a Democrat might walk up that sides with you on more issues than I do. Vote for people because they believe in what you believe in, and that's the only way democracy is served. I'm thinking about running for governor. I think that the Lord has led me through different educational things that are very much compatible to the issues we're going through today. And it's so weird to look back and go, well, I would never imagine myself as a governor. And even if I ran right now, I could have never imagined getting elected as a governor. It just is unimaginable. But so was being mayor. So was being a senator. So was being a pastor, and going through that schooling. It's things. It's the unimaginable things in your life that if the door's open and you're willing to step through and go, I don't know, it might be a dead end, but guess what? The door's open, and if we're not willing to walk through and experience that next thing in life, then that's not living. When you go through your financial problems, it's hard. When you go through sickness or something else in the family, it's hard. But when somebody comes up and says, "You made a difference in my life," there's nothing you can do in this world that'll fill you up and make you feel good like that.